Hello.
Good evening, I can get you.
Okay. Today is Friday, the 9th of December, 2022. We are looking at the 8 laws. To begin with, we're going to look at nutrition. Of course, we already introduced the lesson. The reason why we're starting with N is because we are using New Start. So we are starting with N. Let us begin. Nutrition. The healthy diet, of course, we should avoid all refined foods. We looked at all this. All refined foods, then we should use we should use fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, legumes, and grains, and fresh and simple as possible. That's what we looked at. This part, brother, we looked at it. We know the definition of nutrition as defined by the Bible. We know the only definition that we find in the Bible of the food given to man, it is Genesis chapter 1, verse 29. That is the food given to man. Then because of sin, God decided to introduce the herb of the field. That is Genesis chapter 3, verse 18. And after the flood, God decided to allow the people to eat meat or to eat the flesh of dead animals, but on exception that they should not eat it with blood. They should not eat it with fat. Okay, but that permit was for a short period of time, which we're going, of course, if time will allow, we're going to look at that. So brother, you can do next. So in the beginning, God created heaven and the earth, which we saw that is in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. Then in Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, God decided to create man in his own image. That is verse 26. Verse 27, then God created man in his image. Okay, that's when God created man in his image. Then the detailed on how he created man is projected in Genesis chapter 2. So when God formed man, that is Adam, of course, and the woman, Eve, were given noble traits of character and high intellectual powers, yet they were to develop character by their choices they made. That's the reason when you check in verses 26, we see that when the gods sat to discuss on their plan on how to create man, they said, let us create man in our image after our likeness. Then verses 27, when they created man, the likeness was this attribute. It was the expect that these gods, the God is actually written Elohims, that were expecting man to have. Man was required to develop the character by their choices they made. Therefore, at the very beginning of man's existence, a check was placed upon the desire for self-indulgence and the tree of knowledge, that is food, which was to be a test of obedience, faith, and love of our first parents. So the reason why the tree of knowledge of good and evil was placed there, it was because it was a test of their loyalty, their respect to God, or or they would choose to disobey him. The reason to why it was there because evil was already there. Okay, Satan had already sinned. Then death, man, it happened that man fell, decided to, of course, they chose to sin. The one who chose to sin is, of course, Adam. The woman was deceived, he sinned. Then death entered. So death mostly, that is of when they ate the forbidden fruit, Satan managed to overcome them, overcome Adam and Eve upon appetite. So then because of this, they fell on the point of appetite. That is the entrance of sin. And for us to overcome sin, we should overcome appetite. Okay, that's the thing that we have to understand. Then Genesis chapter 1, verse 29 and 30, we see that verses 29 is the diet that God decided to give to man. Verse 30 is the diet that God decided to give to the animals. But because of sin, we saw what happened. Even the animals, most of people, they don't seem to understand that the animals, inclusive of a lion, was given a vegetarian diet. Okay, that is verses 30 of Genesis. But because of sin, the lion became a carnivorous animal. Okay, that's what happened. Of course, to balance the megafauna or to balance the world life. That's the reason it happened to be like that. Most of people, of course, they might ask questions pertaining to that. We might handle those questions later. Next slide, brother. So the issue of blood and fat. So when God decided to condone, allow, that is Genesis chapter 9. Genesis chapter 9, he did not allow man to eat blood and fat, okay, from the flesh of dead animals. He did not allow that. Okay, so technically speaking, if those who were to eat animals with blood, okay, if they were to eat it with blood, that was to be seen. And if they were to eat it with fat, that was to be seen. Okay. There's a lot of debate. Most of people who eat flesh, okay, I see most of them, they eat it with fat and blood, and they say God allowed to eat flesh. Okay, they are proud to say that. But even when they read the same verse, the part when God allowed to eat flesh, he told them, do not eat flesh with blood and fat. Okay, so meaning that if they eat flesh with blood and fat, they are disobeying God. Okay, they're not following the rule or the guide that God condoned in the what? In the time of the Exodus. Okay. In the time of after the antediluvian or the post-diluvian period. They do not follow that. Okay. So we see that about 1700 years later, after the flood had torn up the vegetation, God allowed, not commanded, he allowed. You have to understand this. He allowed. To allow is simply to permit. Okay, it may not, for instance, if a child you keep in the house wants to go outside and you do not want that child to go outside, but the child wants to go outside because they have a free will, a choice, you'd allow them to go outside. God did not command, okay, the people to eat animals. He allowed them. Okay, there are quotations, several ones, which shows that the people began to eat animal flesh even before God allowed. Okay, that's what happened. So there's a time when the parents, because of what the child would want, despite them not wanting, they would allow That's what it means. So God allowed, not commanded men to eat flesh, but if they did, they would pay a price. They would pay a price. That is Genesis chapter 9, verse 3. We see verse 3 and 5. We see that man, after he was to eat the flesh, the blood that he was to shed, he was to be required of that blood, or in short, he was to be required of the innocent animal that he was to shed. Okay, that is the price, meaning the lifespan was to be shortened. Having their lifespan reduced by the very animals they ate. Of the hundreds of animal diseases, it is known that more than half can be passed from animal to man. The average length, that is lifespan, the average lifespan of man before the flood was about, we know that Adam lived 930? Okay, thus he died at the age of 930. Noah lived 950. Okay, people were living, the average lifespan was about 909 years then, but after animal and animal products were introduced into the dirt, the next 10 generations lost an average of 73 years of life per generation, down to Abraham's age of 175 years. Okay, and today, despite modern medicines, of course, today we call ourselves saying we are modern and we have advanced machineries, but despite this, people still die. The lifespan, it has reduced to 45, others is 35, okay, of age. That's the lifespan, the average lifespan of man. We are still down to 70 and up to 75. Then if it's by grace, people, they live up to 120. Okay, but that should be by struggling according to the Bible. Because the Bible told us saying that man, according to Psalms, that man's lifespan is 70. That is 70. Okay. And if it's by reason of strength, he might reach 80. Okay. Which still does not recommend this type of diet. So several hundred years later, when God led his chosen people out of Egypt, that is out of slavery, he immediately switched them over to a vegetarian diet, which the people decided to call it manna. Because when God poured bread from heaven, which they describe saying it looked like coriander, but according to Psalms, it says it was the heavenly food, and that food is what the angels eat. Then the people decided to call it manna, because they were asking, manna means, what is this? They started to ask, saying, what is this you're giving us, Moses? Okay, or God. They decided to call it manna. But they preferred flesh over this. They preferred flesh to manna. Most of people, they preferred flesh to manna, and eventually were allowed such with regulations. Upon their settlement in Canaan, the Israelites were permitted the use of animal food, but under careful restrictions, which tended to lessen the evil results. And we know what happened according to Psalms. It is saying those who were, of course, when he permitted, because there are times there's when God gave them manna and withheld animal flesh largely, he withheld animal flesh largely, decided to give them manna. There are those who loathed or hated manna and decided to ask for meat or flesh, and God decided to give them quails. We know what happened to them. Okay, we know what happened. They died. All of them who ate quails, they died. So the use of swine's flesh, according to Deuteronomy 28, the 28 or 24, and Numbers, we see that the use of flying flesh and some animals were not allowed, were prohibited, okay, to use. As also of other animals and of birds and fish whose flesh was pronounced unclean. Of the meats permitted, the eating of the fat and the blood was strictly forbidden. That is Testimony Studies on Diets and Foods, page 63. Okay, this is also found in the Bible. The use of fat and blood was strictly forbidden. That's what we see from here. Next slide, brother. Leviticus 3:17 says the Israelites were forbidden to eat the fat or the blood. It shall be a perpetual statute for your generations throughout all your dwellings, that ye eat neither fat nor blood. This law not only related to beasts for sacrifice, but to all cattle which were used for food. This law was to impress upon them the important fact that if there had been no sin, there would have been no shedding of blood. Okay, because there was no killing in Eden. That's the thing that you have to understand. Until when sin entered. So the blood of the Son of God was symbolized by the blood of the slain victim. And God would have clear and definite ideas preserved between the sacred and the common. Blood was sacred, in as much as through the shedding of the blood of the Son of God alone could there be an atonement for sin. Because we know that Job 14, it says, how can the unclean produce a clean thing? It's impossible. Okay. So man was unclean, and it took a man that was Jesus Christ, who never had sinned, to do sacrifice for what? For us. That's what happened. Okay. So it says, blood was also used to cleanse the sanctuary from the sins of the people, thus typifying the blood of Christ, which alone can cleanse from sin. The fat was to be used in sacrificial offerings with the beasts, but in no case was it a suitable article of food. If used, disease would be the sure result. That's what we see here. Okay, that is ST. Is it volume 7, paragraph 15, 18, 18. Okay, Leviticus 7, verse 25 up to 27 says, for whosoever eateth the fat of the beast, of which men offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord, even the soul that eateth it shall be cut off from his people. Okay. So if they were to eat it, the fat of the beast, they were to be cut off. Moreover, he shall eat no manner of blood, whether it be of a fowl, or of a bird, or of a beast, or any of your dwellings. Whatsoever. Then another one says, whatsoever so it be that eateth any manner of blood, even that soul shall be cut off from his what? From his people. That is from these verses, the verses in Leviticus, verses 25 up to 27. Okay, that's what we see from there. Next, brother. So again, when we see in Isaiah, we see Isaiah 11, we see that the dirt, it has to come back before Christ comes. We have to come back to the Garden of Eden. We see in Isaiah 11, there'll be a time when a snake will play together with a lion, even the animals, they're going to go back to the plant-based diet. That is Genesis chapter 1 verse 30. Okay, so we are expected, all of us, before Christ comes, to go back to Eden, inclusive of the animals. The animals, they are going to go back to the Edenic diet before Christ comes. Okay, that's what we see in Isaiah chapter 11. Okay. Most of the people, of course, they might ask questions saying that Isaiah chapter 11, it is in heaven. Okay, the simple question is that, do we have children in heaven? Do you have babies? Because in Isaiah chapter 11, we see babies, we see children, okay, there. Okay, even after the what? In the new earth, are we going to have children? We're not going to have children in the new earth. Okay, so in Isaiah chapter 11, we do not expect that to happen in heaven or in the new earth. We expect that to happen before Christ comes, because there are children there. So God pointed toward complete vegetarianism. Also, when you check it in Daniel, we see that Azariah, Mishael, Hananiah, and Daniel, they were following what you call a vegetarian diet. That's what we saw there. Then even John the Baptist was following what you call a vegetarian diet. He was eating from the locust fruits. That's what he was eating. I've received several people tell me, saying that no, he was eating locusts. Okay, it is a tree. You can Google that out. There's a tree called locust tree. Okay, so he was eating the locust fruit. That's what he was eating. They're called locust, or other name they call it carob tree. And the spirit of prophecy confirms that John's diet was purely a vegetable. Okay, so he was eating honey and the locust fruits. That's what he was eating. Then in Revelation 21 verse 4, likewise, John the Revelator spoke of the time when there would be no more pain or death. Okay, so pain and death is going to go away. There's a promise in the Bible. There'll be a time when pain and death is going to go away. So this diet given us by God in Genesis chapter 1 verse 29 is the diet that we have to go back to. And it is better to dwell in a corner of the housetop than with a brawling woman in a world house. Okay, this is just a comparison to dwell with a woman that, of course, is driven by indulgence or appetite. It's better to dwell in a corner of the housetop. The other reference, it says it's better. What do you call? Ecclesiastes tells you, saying that a woman who follows indulgence is better than death. That's what Ecclesiastes tells you. The reason why maybe this is saying like that, because women, they influence men. Solomon recognized the effects of emotional stress on our well-being. Our attitude while eating is important. If we are nervous or in a hurry or upset about something, the digestive process is impaired. So counsel tells us not to eat when we are in a hurry, excited. Okay, we should not do that. Or upset, sad, we should not eat. Okay, when we are upset, sad, or in a hurry. It is better not to eat at all unless we can do so in a positive frame of mind and take our time. So hurried eating tends to overeating. Since digestion begins in the mouth, it is important to chew your food well. So we know also not to masticate. It is sin. We know that. So if we don't masticate, chew, that is sin. We know that. But digestion begins from the mouth. Okay, we are required to disrupt whatever the cell wall or the cell membrane, so that we reach out the nutrients that are found inside the cell, okay, and the body benefits as a reason we chew. Okay. I continue, brother. So in 1956, the USDA began heralding meat in their basic food grouping plan in their grouping plan. We know that there's a debate. There are a lot of people, when you adopt a vegetarian diet, they are going to become nutrition expert. They tell you saying that no, you're going to be deficient. That's what they tell you. They're saying you lack protein. In 1839, that's when they discovered protein, and they discovered it from the flesh of dead animals. Then later on, they discovered that protein is also found in legumes. Examples of legumes is soy, okay, soya products, or soya beans, even all group of beans, lentils, all of them, there's what you call protein there. Even they began to find, they also, the studies found that also in vegetables, there's protein, like amarantha, okay. Amarantha, there's about 75% of protein in the amarantha seeds. They discovered also that there's a lot of protein in spirulina. It's about 80%. It's the one that is leading in protein compared to meat. Okay, so those people who are who say that in vegetation or plant-based there's no protein, then they are ignorant, or they are behind in terms of information. Okay, so that's how it is. In 1991, they brought about a change by dropping the meat. Wonder why we don't hear more about it by the USDA, those that regulate the diet worldwide. Okay, so here it is, the guide by the USDA. These are the ones that regulate or legalize the food that should be used, okay, worldwide. Vegetables, that is 3 or more servings a day. So they respected vegetation or vegetables, because they know that the food that gives life is plant-based food. So vegetations are packed with nutrients. They provide, of course, with vitamin C, beta carotene. So let me speak of beta carotene. Those people who do not understand nutrition, they tell you saying we need to take vitamin A. Vitamin A, it is a byproduct from beta carotene. Okay, so when you eat beta carotene, the body is going to convert beta carotene into vitamin A. There's no vitamin A in plant-based diet. That thing you have to understand. So if someone is selling you vitamin A and is saying it's plant-based, that's a lie, because vitamin A is not found in plant-based diet. Okay, and those who take vitamin A, they call they poison the system, because vitamin A, it is what? It is a byproduct or a waste product that comes from what? From beta carotene. The body, when it ingests beta carotene, it converts it into what? Into vitamin A. That's the thing that you have to understand. So all animal life, if they eat beta carotene, they have what you call vitamin A in their system. So it is only found, vitamin A is only found in flesh. Okay, you can check that up. Then riboflavin, iron, calcium, fiber, and other nutrients, they are found in vegetation or vegetables. Okay, so this it's rare that you can find also vitamin C. You can mute someone. It's rare that you can find vitamin C in, actually you don't find vitamin C in animal life. You don't do that. Okay. You don't find, from meat, you don't find vitamin C. And the reason being is very simple. Vitamin C is only found from vegetable, and also vitamin C is water-soluble vitamin. And vitamin C, they are cousins with B12. Most of people, they argue are based on B12. Okay, they are cousins. B12 or B vitamins are also water-soluble. There's no, what do you call, animal life that makes B12. B12 is manufactured by bacteria that live in symbiotic relationship with plant roots. That's what they do. So these bacteria are the ones that make B12. Okay. So, for instance, a fish gets B12 from Ogi or Ogi, whatever you pronounce it, the one that is found in the sea. They get a B12 from there. The cow, they get B12, those they eat vegetation. So B12, since they eat vegetation that is not fertilized or do not add chemicals to kill bacteria that makes or manufactures B12, then they have B12. Okay. What else? Then the rest of the animals, they get B12. Of course, like a carnivorous animal, a lion, will get B12 from if it eats a buffalo or even a cow, because the cow has already B12 from plant-based. It is going to eat B12 from that animal. Okay. So that's the thing that also you have to understand. So dark green leafy vegetables such as broccoli, collards, kale, mustard and turnip, greens, chokori, or bok choy are especially good sources of these important nutrients. Dark yellow and orange vegetables such as carrots, winter squash, sweet potatoes, and pumpkin provide extra beta carotene and lycopene. That's the thing you have to understand. So if you have to have yellow things or orange things, you have to understand if they look yellow, red, and orange, you have to understand that there's beta carotene and lycopene in them. Okay. Then dark leafy greens, we know that there's vitamin C and B vitamins, are iron, okay, loaded in them. Then include generous portions of variety of vegetables in your diet. Then serving size 1 cup raw vegetables. That's half cup cooked vegetables. So if it's possible, you have to eat half a meal raw and half a meal cooked, so that you benefit the nutrition that is found in the food. Then the whole grains, 5 or more servings a day. That's the thing. 5 or this is the recommendation by the USDA. This is not, we are not making this up. It's a recommendation by the USDA. 5 or more servings a day. This group includes bread. The reason to why grains is 5 or more servings a day is because they provide starch. Starch is long chain sugars. Okay. And worldwide, if you check on the map, most of people, they eat what you call, actually it's all of them, they eat starch, because the starch is long chain sugar, meaning it can last you with energy for 3 to 5 hours. That is starch. But fruits is short chain sugars, meaning it can only last you with energy for 1 hour to 2 hours. Those are fruits. Okay. Then fat is also not long chain sugars. You eat fat, you feel weak all the time. Like Atkins diet recommends eating, they call it the ketogenic diet. Or ketogenic diet, that is Atkins diet, eating a large proportion of meat or flesh animals, it makes you weak, very weak, because you do not have what you call energy. Because energy is only found in what? Long chain sugars or starch is found what? Is found in what? In grains, potatoes, and legumes like beans. Okay, that's why you find long chain sugars. Okay, and there are a lot of things that they've attached grains to. Actually, others they've attached. Is it celiac disease, the one that they've attached it to? But there are few people that have that condition. There are few. Okay, there are very few that have heard of that condition. So a lot of people, they just try to talk bad about starch. Okay, I've heard several of them, they talk bad about starch, but starch, God decided to put the aniline or the taste of starch in the mouth. That is a signal that we are meant to eat starch. Okay, there's what you call taste of starch in the mouth. We learned that in biology. So this group includes bread, that is, of course, not refined bread, because refined bread it lacks nutrition. Then rice, pasta, hot or cold cereal, corn, millet, barley, bugo or buga, buckwheat, grouts, and the tortillas. Tortillas, I don't know, I've never seen this one. Build each of your meals around a hearty grain dish. Grains are rich in fiber and other complex carbohydrates, carbon, hydrogen, okay, and oxygen, as well as protein, B vitamins and zinc. Okay, B vitamins and zinc. Of course, serving size is half cup hot cereal, 1 ounce dry cereal, and 1 sliced bread. Okay, and next, brother. Fruits. Yeah. Yes, there's also a diet called what you call, we know, there's a diet called, like McDougall's diet called starchivores. There's also a diet which I've talked about ketogenic diet by Atkin, promoting to eat more of what? Of flesh animals. Then there's another diet which is called a frugivore diet. Okay, there are people who recommend only to eat fruits, but that's not the recommendation by God, by heaven. God gave us what you call fruits, vegetables, nuts. Okay, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and grains. That's the prescription by heaven, which we have all of us to return to eat. So we're discussing fruit. Says this is by the USDA. Fruit, 3 or more servings a day, meaning you can eat fruits. When you check the research or by that is the epidemiological, okay, or the studies that they find, the latest studies, they tell you saying that there's nothing like eating much fruits or excess fruits. There's nothing like doing that. Despite this saying 3 or more servings a day, a person can eat more bananas or 20 or 30 apples, okay, without receiving any effect or any side effect. So fruits are rich in fiber, vitamin C, and beta carotene. Be sure to include at least 1 serving each day of fruits that are high in vitamin C. Okay. The reason to why it's easy to reach out vitamin C in fruits is because of vitamin C is water soluble, and every time when we cook, vitamin C is denatured because it's water soluble, is denatured by heat. So fruits, it's rare that we cook fruits. Every time we eat them raw. So that's the reason we see benefits from fruits. Citrus fruits, of course. Melons and strawberries are all good choices of these, of vitamin C and these other vitamins. Choose whole fruit over fruit juices, those that are packed like cereals, 100% pure juices. Those are not true. Okay, so you choose or you prefer those the real fruits over these fruit juices, which do not contain very much fiber. Okay, because the body knows how to. There's a reason to why the nutrients are what? Are covered by fiber. And there's a reason to why when we eat, there's a fiber, and the fiber helps us also with digestion. And the body knows how to extract the nutrients from what? From the food. It knows. We don't have to extract nutrients for it. The body knows you can't fool the body. The body knows how to extract vitamin C from an apple, beta carotene from what? From a carrot. The body knows how to do that. Okay. Then, how was I now? Then serving one medium piece of fruit. I've already read this one. Okay. Cooked fruit. Of course, you have fruits that you can cook. Then 4 ounces juice. Then let us look at now legumes. Or legumes, others they call them legumes. 2 or more servings a day. So legumes, which is another name for beans, peas, lentils. Actually, there's a lot. There's actually, you can't even number. The group of legumes are a lot. If you talk of beans, there's actually types of beans. Okay, there are a lot. You can't finish exhaust in naming them. Then when you talk of also lentils, there are also types of lentils. I didn't know until when I went to an Indian store. I asked them saying I want lentils. Then they started telling me that there are types of lentils. Okay, so lentils are also in types. We see also peas and all good sources of fiber. Protein, iron, calcium, zinc, and B vitamins are found where? In legumes. So if you want to have a lot of zinc, protein, you have to eat a lot of what? To eat a lot of seeds and B vitamins. Eat seeds. Seeds is the storage of life. We know that in seed there's life. It's the storage of life. So if you want growth, you eat more of seeds. If you want the brain development, you eat more of the seeds. Seeds are important. So this group also includes chickpeas, baked and refried beans, soy milk, tempeh, and texturized vegetables, vegetable protein. Servings: half cup cooked beans, 4 ounces tofu or tempeh. We know tofu. We know that tofu comes from soy. And 8 ounces soya milk. Be sure to include a good source of vitamin B12, especially those that live in the Western world, like those in Africa, because Africa the soil is not very much denatured compared to the Western world. Okay, meaning that there's a lot of bacteria in African soil, to manufacture B12 to the plants. But in the Western world, a lot of buildings and a lot of chemicals used, we see that bacteria that manufactures B12 is less there. So that's the reason there's fortified food with B12 and B12 supplements. So if you stay in those areas, it's better that you look for a good source of vitamin B12. Okay. B12 sources, plain malt, spirulina, chlorella, or you just look for what? For B12 sources that you know best. They can be in form of tablets. Is cyanocobalamin. Actually, every food that has cobalt and together with the good bacteria in your gut, it can help you with B12. Good bacteria in your gut, then cyanocobalamin, that is B12 is another name for cyanocobalamin. Others, they use methylcobalamin, but the central atom is cobalt. So since in plant-based food, like beans, amaranth, there's cobalt, it can supply you with cobalt. And when you eat it together with your good bacteria, it can make that into cyanocobalamin or B12. And if all that is lacking into your area, it's better that you be taking some B12 supplements. Okay. Many of us grew up with the USDA's old basic 4 food groups, first introduced in 1956. The passage of time has seen an increase in our knowledge about the importance of fiber. Okay. Like the fiber man, what was the name? Dennis Bakiti. You can check that man out. It's called the fiber man. He knows how important fiber is, because if you eat more of fiber, actually this fiber man talked about he came from the Western world, he came into Africa. When he came into Africa in the 20th century, he discovered that there was no coronary artery diseases or cardiovascular diseases here in Africa, or the Western diseases called diabetes, tuberculosis, heart diseases he didn't have. Okay. Then the diet that he discovered, that the Africans were eating what we call a lot of starch, a lot of fiber. That's what they were eating. Okay. So since today we have adopted what you call the Western world, we eat more of meat, flesh animals, and we eat junk foods. We eat breakfast meal. We eat a lot of processed foods. There's less fiber in our gut, and because of less fiber, what happens? What happens if we eat less fiber? We have diseases. We have constipation, and we have a lot of diseases. So that's the reason the USDA noticed the importance of fiber and included to eat more fiber. The health risk of cholesterol and fats and disease preventive power of many nutrients found exclusive in plant-based foods. Okay, so that's the USDA. Okay, another slide, brother. Okay, we also have discovered that the plant kingdom provides excellent sources of the nutrients once only associated with meat and dairy products, namely protein and calcium. So we know that the plant kingdom, as I earlier stated, saying is you can find calcium in the plant kingdom. We can also find protein in the plant kingdom. Okay. Then the USDA revised its recommendations with the food guide pyramid, a food grouping plan that reduced the serving suggestions for animal products and vegetable fats. Okay, PCRM, determining that regular consumption of such foods, even in lower quantities, possesses serious unnecessary health risk. Developed the new 4 food groups in 1991. This none or no cholesterol low fat plan supplies all of an average adult daily nutritional requirements, including substantial amounts of fiber. The major killers of Americans, of course, heart disease, cancer, and stroke, have a dramatically lower incidence among people consuming primarily plant-based diets, as I earlier stated. Okay. So no four food group recommendations by the USDA. Me, I'm talking about, this is the recommendation by the world, the USDA, the one that regulate food worldwide. Okay. Isn't it just amazing that the closer we look at gas a plant, the better it gets? Okay, so sugar, when you look at sugar, it's associated with diabetes, but of course the studies tell you saying diabetes is defined as abnormal metabolism of fat, protein, and carbohydrates. So those that eat fat, a lot of fat, animal fat, then a lot of protein, animal protein, and carbohydrates, like refined sugars, they have what you call diabetes. So diabetes is disease which can be caused by sugar consumptions as well as high fat diet. Diabetes is caused by the failure of the pancreas to produce adequate insulin when the blood sugar rises. Okay. Next, brother. Brother. Okay. So this one is discussing diabetes. You can go on another next slide. So the diet given us by God, we have to understand is the diet that we have to follow. Okay. So Ellen White tells us in counsel that on health makes these statements. The free use of sugar in any form tends to clog the system and is not infrequently a cause of disease. Okay. That is page 154. Sugar clogs the system. It hinders the working of the living machine. That is page 149. God has given sufficient counsel pertaining to this. And we know that bacteria thrives in sugar. So we should not use sugar, or we should reduce in taking sugar. We can use sugar not as food. We can use sugar as what do you call a taste, not as food or for preservative. We can use sugar for preservative, not as food or for taste. Next slide, brother. Okay. Another slide, brother. Okay, so we can end here, and if there are questions, you can ask your questions.